Hi everyone, welcome back to Coffee Books and Rain, where we are really churning out the episodes today. I have had quite a few to get off my plate and recorded for you all, and I have just been so busy trying to prepare for a move into a new place. So, we are diving in straight away into the book called Dinner at the Night Library by Hika Harada and translated by Philip Gabriel. Now, this book, I picked it up as I often do because I really enjoy Japanese literature and I like the magical realism and fiction that tends to come from many of the books that I see on NetGalley. So recently, I think I did, gosh, Cherry Blossom Bookshop, and I've done one about like laundry and the Dallargate Dream District. So I picked this one up with the thought that, okay, well, we're going to dive back into kind of this magical yet kind of realistic sort of world, and we're going to maybe have it in a night library. So I was very interested about that. And let's dive into the summary and then we'll talk about it from there. A whimsical, charming novel about a mysterious library in Tokyo that opens after dark, following the employees who bond each night over special meals inspired by the books on the shelves. The night library on the outskirts of Tokyo isn't your ordinary library. It's only open from 7 o'clock to midnight. It exclusively stores books by deceased authors, and none of them can be checked out. Instead, they're put on public display to be revered and celebrated by the library's visitors, akin to a book museum. Otoha Higuchi, the newest employee, has been recruited to work at the library by the mysterious anonymous owner. There, Otoha meets the other staff, comprised of former librarians and booksellers like her, who have been damaged in some way by the rocky publishing industry. Yet none of them have ever given up their dedication to books. Night after night, Otoha bonds with her colleagues over meals in the library cafe, each of which are inspired by the literature on the shelves. When strange occurrences start happening around the library that may bring the threat of closure, it forces Otoha and the library staff to rethink their entire relationship with work and what they really want in life. So it is considered fiction, Japanese fantasy, Japanese literature, magical realism, and a book about books. It is approximately 320 pages in hardcover, and it was first published June 21st of 2023. So I believe that we get this one. I received the audiobook, and so it looks like it potentially was translated into English by Scrivener in 2025, at least just from what I'm kind of seeing here. So it does say expected publication September 30th of 2025 as well. So that would be the English edition that has been translated. I had the audiobook, which I thought was very well done. It is not very long. I don't remember exactly how long it was. Let me just look at it real quick. I'm going to try not to click it and make words play. But I just know that I got through it very quickly and was very impressed by, let's just see if there's anything noted in the information. No, it doesn't tell me how long it was. I just thought I could check that before I click on it again. So, Otoha was working at a small bookstore, and she realized that her previous boss kind of put everyone into two categories. It was like the friendly people or the nice people, and then like the grumpy people. And so originally she was kind of placed into this nice category, but she's not always super amenable or super perky or what have you. So ultimately she kind of got put into the grumpy category, and it wasn't working well for her because then something happened and she left that job. Now, I'm dancing around that a little bit because I do think it's part of the story that you have to find out towards the end of this one. And so she goes on to like some blogs, and I'm just thinking something like Tumblr or Reddit or something of that nature, and starts kind of talking about her experiences into like chats or what have you. And someone reaches out to her about a job, a position in a night library where they check in, or, they go to work around 7 p.m. and then they close up at midnight. Now, I don't know for 5 hours what you really do, and I'm not 100% certain why that time of the evening is the time for this. But they do still have regulars who come in, and there are some fairly pushy patrons as well. But Otoha is fairly new, and they do give her a little kind of almost dormitory type apartment, kind of as part of her pay. I think she gets paid, and I think she gets an apartment as well. So as she's there, she starts to meet the others in the group who work at this library, and they all seem fairly nice, fairly amenable, but of course she still feels a little out of character, a little out of sorts, because she's just not sure if she's going to fit in. And now I thought that this book did not have the same level of magicalism that some of them do. And I do find in many of them that Japanese literature that has been translated with levels of magical realism is they have a dreamlike quality. Not sure this one has that dreamlike quality. There's not a supernatural-esque element that's floating around that people are made to feel is normal. And that tends to be a part of magical realism that I really appreciate, is when they make something magical feel like it's a little bit a part of everyday life. Or vice versa, where they take something from everyday life, like I think it was the one about the coin laundry, and they take something as what I would call as basic, as common as coin operated laundry, but in that story was used to help people wash away the stains on their souls, wash away some of the hurts, or wash away some of the guilt or things that they carried in their life, and then be able to walk away maybe without so much weight on their shoulders. And this one didn't really have that element. That is okay. This one was a little bit more slice of life, which is really just a snapshot into a period of time for this night library. I didn't find anything incredibly magical about it. Or magical realism about it, because now there are some potential thoughts that maybe lean towards a supernatural cause, but let's just say some of that gets explained towards the end as well. And so I have a hard time putting this into magical realism because it's really just more slice of life. You can watch an anime that's kind of slice of life where things maybe aren't always rainbows and sunshines. It's really just like one that really kind of, I guess, haunts me for a slice of life anime because it just like leaves you in tears. It was called Your Lie in April. And I think by the end of that anime, I was gutted, and I was like, okay, watching this type of anime may not be the best thing for me because my emotions are now in shambles. Now, my emotions were not fully in shambles in this particular book, but we do really start to feel for each of the characters. We do get a snapshot into most of their psyche or mindset or what's going on with them. It's not all from Otoha's perspective, because we do get some chapters from the other characters as well. And I really like that. Now, one of the things is that this particular person, Erin, she's one of the first people whose reviews that I just happened to see, and it's fairly lengthy as well, is she makes a comment that I really like, and it says, "This book is gentle, lulling, and nothing really major happens. It's a very low stress book, which may be just the thing sometimes." And that's exactly what I wanted to highlight as I was saying slice of life. Nothing major really happens. There's one mystery that's kind of happening in the book, and we can talk about it. So I was debating on it, like, is it more of a spoiler? But it's really not. So one of the things that happens is an author comes in, and he's alive, so his collection has not been added to the library. An author comes in and demands to see the collection left behind by another author, and the night library staff is like, "Oh, well, the books are still in storage. We haven't sorted them or organized them yet." But he's adamant that he wants to see those books. Like, he will not leave until they go get those books. And so they're like, "Okay, fine. We'll go get them." So a couple of them hop in the car, and they go over to, like, where they're storing the books. They load them up, and somebody tells him, he's like, "Hey, I kind of need to stay with you as you're with these books. They are not organized. They are not sorted. They are not properly registered in our systems yet. So, I kind of need to be here to ensure we don't, like, lose any books and nothing gets misplaced." And he starts ranting and raving about, "Are you, like, accusing me of, like, theft?" And she's like, "No, like, we just haven't accounted for these books yet, and we want to ensure we do our due diligence and justice towards these books and towards the people who trusted us with them by ensuring that they're all here." So again, he's very upset, but by the end of it, he does walk away, I think a little abashed because of what he discovers once he does go through those books. And that's just one of the things that's kind of happening. Another thing is that they slowly start to find books on the shelves that are not part of their collections. There will be a random book placed on a shelf with somebody else's, like, let's say an author left their collection, so now they're all together on a shelf, and another random book will be there, but it won't be part of the library, because all of the books of the library have certain stamps and markings on the inside. So that's very confusing for this group as well, because I don't think even a regular library would want there to be, like, books on their shelves that are not in the system. How are they supposed to check them out to patrons if they are not properly cataloged in the system? Now, it may feel lucrative to a new author, or maybe an indie author, to go to a library and slip their book on the shelf and have it available for someone to be able to look at. But if you didn't talk to the library and maybe ask them to add it to their collection, then it's not going to be properly cataloged, and then how can anybody ever check it out? Well, as we did learn, this book does not allow you to check, or this library does not allow you to check them out, but you can come and read and enjoy the books that are there, and you can see the books. And I think this is very interesting, because I guess in my mind, now for Japan, of course, they mentioned several authors that don't ring bells with me, but I was trying to think of it from, like, I guess more of an American perspective, where if there was a library that opened in the evenings, where after an author passes, let's say Tolkien, after he passed, all of the Tolkien books that he had possessed in his personal collection, not his Hobbit series, not his Silmarillion, not the ones he wrote, the ones he read on his shelves, were in a collection in a library somewhere, where you could go and see or hold the copy of the Odyssey that Tolkien owned, whether he owned a copy or not. But that would be kind of cool. And that's why I think this book was really interesting to me, is because I could kind of picture it from the perspective of that. Maybe, after Terry Pratchett passed, what books were on his bookshelves that if we're in a library, you would like to see that he had in his collection or didn't have in his collection. And again, I'm not talking about him having his entire Discworld series up there. Like, you can really go to almost any library and find Terry Pratchett's Discworld collection. But what books did he have on his bookshelf? That would be really interesting. So, overall, I think it was really well done, but not as magical as I thought it was going to be. And my last critique was it ends incredibly abruptly. Like, at the very end, I was just like, and we just leave it. And like, it just goes blip and it's done. It doesn't really like transition well to the end. And I think that was what I was just like, and we're done. Okay. There's nothing more after that. Because again, I was audiobooking and then it was like, all right, thank you for listening. And I was like, wait, we weren't done with the story yet, were we? But I guess we were. So anyway, I thought it was really cute. And I liked the way that there is kind of like a person, there's like a little cafe inside this night library that apparently does like food, and they do various foods, like almost it sounds like a family meal where they make food for everyone to have in the evenings, and it really more for staff probably rather than like patrons. But I liked that idea that they were literary based, like somewhere in one of the books on the shelves they were inspired by a meal that was presented on the page. So I do love when I run across a book and then at the very end are some recipes that they had talked about in a book. There was a book by Gigi Pandian I read that the main character was, I think, vegan, but man, I will tell you, the recipes in the back of that book sounded so decadent. And I know maybe sometimes people don't think highly of vegan food, but I will tell you, some of their food is so incredibly decadent and delicious. So you don't have to be vegan to enjoy a vegan meal. It just means that particular meal may not have meat products. And I think that's okay. I think we can do that every once in a while. But anyway, I like when there's a recipe in the back and I can kind of make a flourless chocolate cake or, some sort of meal like that. But with all of that being said, I am going to go ahead and leave this here. I like this book. Not as magical as I was looking forward to, and ends abruptly. But overall, slice of life that's really cozy. And I like a book about books, and I like a book about a library. And these people were delightful in all of the best ways. But until next time, I want to thank you so much for joining me on this journey, and I will see you all on the next page. I hope you have a great one. Bye.